Welcome to Gaming Top Down. Today I'm going to be starting a fun new set of videos where I go through every game in my collection. That video would take a lot of time since I have, I think, coming up on 350 games currently. And so I've broken them down by letter that the game starts with, and then even further into different categories. We'll probably have upcoming games that are going to be here soon, games I haven't played yet, games that I'm thinking about purging from my collection, and then my favorite games that start with that letter. So today we're going to start with the letter A, kind of kicking off this video series. Thanks so much for joining me for it. And yeah, without any further ado, let's get going. All right, first up in upcoming games, the one I'm most excited about, starts with the letter A, is Andromeda's Edge. This game was designed by Luke Laurie, who is one of my very favorite worker placement game designers. I have Cryo and Whistle Mountain from him, and I really think that he is really good at designing games in that genre specifically. And this one is kind of a quasi-sequel to Dwellings of Eldervale, which I haven't played, but I do like a good sci-fi setting. I like fantasy as well, but I'm really excited for this one. It has big, bombastic miniatures along with hopefully a pretty solid engine-building worker placement game. So that is the upcoming game that starts with the letter A that I am excited for. Next up are the games that I haven't played yet. I have a few of those. First is Arion. This game is in the Oniverse series by Shadi Torby, and I got 3 or 4 of these pretty recently, and this just happens to be one that I haven't had a chance to try yet. I am excited to try it. I think it's one of the more simple ones. Looks like 15-minute playtime, and that's kind of the ballpark that I like to be in for solo games. I want them to be a little bit shorter. I generally don't want to play a solo game that is going to last 90, 120 minutes. So I am excited to try this one out. It just has not gotten to the table yet. Do you let me know in the comments if you like games in the Oniverse? Is Arion one of your favorites, or do you recommend some of the other ones? Next up is a game I'm very excited to play. It's called Aurum. I've also really liked trick-taking games in the past month or so, and this one, I read the rule book this weekend and thought I was going to have an opportunity to play it, but it kind of fell through, so I think I'll play this one this week. It's a interesting trick-taking game in that you generally have to follow suit when someone leads. In this game, you are not allowed to follow suit or play any suit of card that has already been played. So kind of flipping that main mechanism on its head, and we'll see if it turns into a game that is solid or not. I do wish I could play more than just 3 or 4 players. It's kind of locked to a 3-player game, or at 4 players you split into 2 teams. I know that's pretty common for trick-taking games though, so really like the box size, love Pandasaurus, so excited to try that one out. Next up is one I got over the holidays, just still have not had a chance to play it yet, and that is Apiary from Stonemaier Games. This is a worker placement game where you play as different colonies of bees that have, developed science since humans have passed on. And yeah, it has a cool mechanism where you have your bee workers, and when you get bumped by other players, they will get stronger. So you'll roll them to a stronger side as that happens. It's been a pretty popular game, reviewed pretty well, so I do anticipate that I will like it. Just with the timing and stuff, it has not gotten to the table yet. Let me know if you've played Apiary. It's one I'm very much looking forward to playing. And then last up in my haven't played yet category is one of the most recent acquisitions I've had, and that is Age of Innovation, a Terra Mystica game. This is a big game. This box is very big. It's in the Terra Mystica series, and there was one more that I'm spacing the name on here at the last second, but very big, kind of long, game where you are building out your kind of civilization of whatever race you are. And kind of the interesting hook to this game is that the races are not tied to a specific board. They are little tokens that can pop out and can be mixed and matched in any different way. I've really liked games like Revive lately that kind of have you spreading out your influence over a board. So I am expecting to like this one, but again, haven't gotten it to the table quite yet. So that's Age of Innovation. All right, next up for the ones I'm thinking about purging, I've got just a few. This first one, I have quite a few print and play games. This one is called Aquamarine. I really like this company, Postmark Games. They make really high quality roll and write games that you can just print at home, laminate if you want to, and yeah, they're really solid. My favorite one recently from them is probably Voyages, and I feel like this one was just not quite as good in my opinion. You are drawing different shapes to dive down from these boats to, I think, see different fish, avoid sharks, and you get points from different things, and you have to come back up before your air runs out. I've only played it a couple of times, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be one that will stay in my heavy roll and write rotation, but that's Aquamarine. Next up is Arboretum. This is a 2 to 4 player card game, and I've only played it once so far at 2 players with my wife, and it's a little bit brutal at 2 players. You can be very, kind of the goal of the game is to be kind of mean. I think whoever has the highest value card of each tree type is the only one that can score that type of tree, if I'm remembering correctly. And so you can really just hurt your opponents by holding on to or taking kind of the card that they need to be able to score those points. And so because of that, I didn't love my first play of it, but I know it's a very, very famous and well-regarded card game. So I want to play it at 3 and 4 players and see if my my love of the game can maybe grow. But that's Arboretum. Next up is one of the very first games that we got in our kind of hobby modern board game collection. That's Azul. And I like Azul. I think it's a good time. I think I've played this first one maybe a few too many times, and so I'm thinking about kind of purging it, and you'll see why a few minutes later into this video. But Azul is a really great game. You draft these really nice looking tiles that kind of look like starbursts, and then you put them on your grid here, trying to score for rows and columns. Really solid game. I think it's been very influential in the genre, but because of another game that I own, I think this one, it might be time to clear up some shelf space from Azul. Next up is a 2-player game that is a pick up and deliver game, which I haven't really loved, except for a couple games recently have kind of reinvigorated that genre for me. And Akrotiri I've played one time with my wife, and it was pretty fun. I liked it, but I thought it was maybe a little long for what it was. It says 45 minutes on the box. I think it took us about an hour, so not too long of a playtime, but I think for what it was, it maybe was just a tiny bit fiddly. You do this weird kind of northeast, southwest of your ship piece to determine if you can score different cards. But it's a pretty fun game. I need to try it one more time before we decide if it's going to go or not. That's Akrotiri. And last up in my potentially purge category is a game that I've played a couple of times on Board Game Arena, and I enjoyed it there. But I have not played it yet in person with the actual physical version, and I think the length of the game is kind of what is turning me off from it just a little bit. I really like the theme of building a kind of your own zoo, and there's some like cool elements to the game of like conservation and trying to be the zoo that is the most kind of well focused in those areas. And I like the card system, and you're flipping out these cards from 1 to 5 to determine how strong the actions you take are. But it's a pretty long game. It says 90 to 150 minutes here, but I think online I've even read it's usually around 2 to 3 hours, so 120 to 180, depending on how many players you're playing with. And obviously, the more familiar you get with it, you could probably cut that down a little bit. So, Ark Nova, I need to give the physical version a chance, I think, because it's intimidating me a little bit, and this big box, but very pretty box and a good game. I know that a lot of people love it. It's, I think, like number 4 all time on Board Game Geek, so it's a very well regarded game. I just need to play it a couple more times. All right, and now for the games that are my favorite in my collection that start with the letter A. First up is a very small one from Button Shy Games. This is Ancient Realm, and it's one of my favorite games in their wallet game series. It's a pretty simple game. You'll be playing out these cards, kind of building your little civilization, your realm, I guess, in front of you. And on each turn, you'll place a new card out, and you have to cover up part of an existing card that's out there. And so everything that you cover up, you kind of lose access to. So you're trying to build the best civilization you can before your number of turns runs out. Ancient Realm is a really good time, especially if you like solo games and it plays in like 10 to 15 minutes. Unless you're kind of slow at making decisions like I am, then it might take 20. But really, really good solo card game. Next up is the game I was talking about that for me has kind of replaced Azul, and that is just another version of Azul, Summer Pavilion. This one I feel like is a little bit less mean because you have more flexibility in where you can place your tiles on your board. You have many spaces that you can place them in. So even if someone takes the set of tiles that you wanted, you don't feel quite as put out. And so I find it a little bit less mean in that way. There's also a different color of token. Each round is wild for the round, so that also adds some flexibility to the game. And I think the scoring is a little more unique than base Azul as well. So I like this version a little bit better. And so it's probably the one that will stay in my collection. Azul, Summer Pavilion, really good game. All right, last couple here. Next one is Abyss. This is a kind of push your luck and set collection game where you are trying to get the best kind of leaders down in this underwater realm. But the way that you do that is pretty cool. On your turn, you start flipping over these little cards from this pile, but then you have to offer them to your opponents before you can take the card. And your opponents, if they want the card, have to buy it from you with their pearls. So you're very unique in that way of like offering something to your opponents before you can even take it. But I think it's a fun push your luck kind of element there. You might also run into a monster card while you're doing that push your luck element. I've played this game 3 times, but I just got the Leviathan expansion and have yet to play it with that expansion. So I'm hoping that will make the monster board even more exciting and dynamic. But Abyss is one I think I'll keep for a long time. I think it's a unique theme, and I think the mechanisms are pretty solid. You can introduce new people to gaming that are fairly new to the game, and it's not too overwhelming. Yeah, I think Abyss is it's a keeper. And then last up is one of my favorite worker placement games, Architects of the West Kingdom. There were a few different games in this West Kingdom series, and this company that's headed by Shem Phillips, Garfield Games, I believe, they make so many games in kind of these trilogies. So I know that they're very well regarded. This is the only one of their games that I currently have, but I have had my eye on some of their newer ones. But yeah, this is a really awesome worker placement game where you place out a worker and then they stay on that spot. And then on a later turn, if you place another worker in the same spot, the amount of goods that you kind of gather from that spot are equal to the number of workers that are there. So your spots get stronger and stronger. But if you put too many workers in a spot, one of your opponents might send all of your workers there to the jail. So you're kind of balancing, making your spot strong, and not letting your opponents get too strong. It's a fun worker placement game. So yeah, that is Architects of the West Kingdom as my last favorite game that starts with the letter A. What are your favorite games that start with the letter A? Are there any that you would recommend to me? Have you played any of these that I just talked about here in this video? Make sure to let me know down in the comments. If you like videos like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you can so that you can see my new videos when they come out. And make sure you check out the other content that I have here on the channel, as well as my monthly giveaway that we do every single month. So thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you on the next one when we talk about the letter B. Thanks. Bye.